Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus, King Sunkiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast. Certainly, maybe, possibly, we'll see. For a relaxed royale review for Reasonable Doubt, episode 9, season 3, and this one here is it one split a day, I keep the evils away. It one split a day, I keep the evils away. The evils, or you can say it, devils. Okay, there's an apostrophe in there for a reason. Now, Jay-Z has a song called The Evils, Devils, spelled the same way, but the song I was just singing was the song Devils, The Evils by Sir. I was singing his song. But I feel like there's that double entendre there regardless. And child, we're gonna get to the music correlation reviews soon, so child, stick a pin in it. But anywho, that being said, we open the episode with Ozzy and Jax having mirrored trauma responses through sex. So, they've been going through the whole lot of the things with this case in their personal lives, their families, and all of it. So, Ozzy calls over the girl that he threw off of him when Monica was sexually assaulting him on his birthday party, and he was having sex with the girl, and she was over across the way doing what she do. Tisk. So, he calls over that girl, the stripper girl that he was having sex with at that time, and he calls her back over to, make up for it. But the issue with this is he's dressing it up like it's for her, but it's really for him. It's really for him to trauma respond, use sex to self-soothe and get this euphoric experience that he's been missing. He ain't been able to do his drugs and everything else that he's used to doing. And it's to take his power back in the situation. It's not truly to make anything up to her, to be honest. And I pick up that same frequency of self-servingism, more so in the entirety of Jackson Lewis's relationship. Is very one-sided. Like, a lot of people are hard as fuck, women in particular, honey. And I feel like they got the same syndrome that Jax does, to be honest. Like, I feel like a lot of women, will be like, oh, we need a heartfelt man. We need a man that's not all hyper masculinity and gangsta, thug, da, 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 da. But then they see that type of man and they call him a bitch, a simp, a hoe ass nigga, say he ain't about nothing, say he ain't worth nothing, ain't good for nothing, and da, 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 da. And, like, I feel like that's also a way, to an extent, that Jax also handles Lewis. Like, he's everything that you need and desire for real, but you are so committed to fawning for fuck niggas that you lack the capacity to truly appreciate it. And so, like I said, that shows up in their one-sided relationship. And whereas even when they have sex, often it's because of what Jax is needing from it. It's not a lot of the times just because Lewis wants to have sex. And even when they were having that awkward thing, I think it was last season, they were having like an awkward spell in their sex life and whatnot. And it's like, she has no real desire to satisfy Lewis. It's all about satisfying her. And like I said, that's in like their whole dynamic, and it shows up even more in sex. Even peep back to, remember that when he was having sex with Hattie's mama, what's her name, Tony. When he was having sex with Tony, Tony was on top. We rarely see Jax on top. We rarely see Jax just giving head just for the fuck of it, to Lewis. We rarely see Jax just, put together something genuinely for him to satisfy and pleasure him, to restore and revitalize him from the day that he's had, the life that he's living, hell, to reciprocate the energy that he has for her. We rarely get that, if ever, right? So I said all that to say, again, not only is it like a mirrored trauma response through sex, but there's also this mirrored one-sidedness, this selfishness through sex and misuse of sex and misuse of the dynamics that they have. It's like, too, and of course I'll elaborate on this the more that we go through the episode and explore, the dynamics and whatnot, but it's also like Jax and Ozzy have a difficult time actually growing because they have an attachment to becoming what they despise. Some part of them glorifies their abuser. Some part of them is entertained by those who are abusive. And so it inspires them in such a way, and they emulate it in different ways that they feel like are safe, and that they feel like will give them enough separation to stay out of prison or to stay out of some scarlet letter list or the pedophile list, things of that nature, right? Do just enough to tote the line, if you will. So as we proceed to give you R&B motherfuckers what you need, and what you need is the princess, the queen, Jax, over at the office. Okay, she picking up over at the office. And she walk in, feeling herself, strutting her stuff. She looks over and sees Bill, oh bitch ass nigga Bill, over there talking to Big Daddy and Lil Daddy. So okay, her wheels is turning in her head like what they say over there talking about, what they talking about, they ain't talking about, what they talking about, they ain't talking about, what they talking about, they ain't talking about nothing. What they talking about though? So as she proceeds to give us R&B motherfuckers what we need, and what we need is the final stamp to what they gonna do to officially try to win this case. Because see, they came upon a form of a win from wielding the sex tape stuff and the mama giving her testimonial and everything that she said. So they were successfully able to at least shift most of the attention away from Ozzy being the number one suspect. And honestly, if you ask me, this is just off the backs of people being stupid and indoctrinated by spiritual abuse, I feel like, but just hold it though. So yeah, so she wants Ozzy to take a stand, and she asks for Bill, Crystal, and Daniel's input on, you know, what they think about the idea, you know, how rare that is. It's usually a last resort, all of that. And Bill is unsure. He like, I don't know if he's gonna be ready. You know, he be acting. Daniel ain't even paying attention. And Crystal is like, oh, well, I mean, it could go this way, it could go that way. So Crystal was like the only one that had like an ounce of Jax's same faith in the situation, but she did express the reason, like, if you really not beyond a shadow of a doubt about it, I don't see why even put him through that. So yeah. So Jack say, okay, now we just gotta go over. We're gonna have to go over and talk to Ozzy now, because I guess it's like they kind of at a stalemate. And either way, they gotta let Ozzy know what's going on, especially if they don't want him to get on the stand. So now, mind you, in the meantime, in between time of this episode, we get some flashbacks, but I'm not gonna go back and forth with them flashbacks in real time and all of that shit. I'm gonna handle them flashbacks on their own. My ADHD is not built for all that back and forth in between modern day and flashbacks and all that. So, child, they gonna talk to Ozzy. Ozzy is in a daze. He about aloof the way that Daniel is, except Daniel is aloof about some other things, and Ozzy is aloof because he not sure about taking a stand. Of course, he's stressed out about the case and all that shit, and his ass keep having nightmares and flashbacks and all this and that going on, and he is, you know, asking himself, what if I did it? This reminds me so much of OJ, because y'all know he even has a book, and I think it's a docu-series or whatnot. I got very fascinated and fixated on the OJ story at one point, and I went and found like a plethora of information, like from him, from other people, things of that nature, talking about it. And it was like this alter ego or whatever that he had, that he used to quote unquote theorize if he did it. So yeah, anyway. So I can see how they are, I can see how they're playing on it, and given the OJ isms that I'm picking up on, it makes me feel like this season is gonna be kind of left open-ended. Like, we gonna get like, they gonna give us something that feels like an answer, but it's gonna leave us with even hella more questions. Like, that's the feeling I got with these OJ symbolisms and the mirrors and the smoking mirrors and topsy-turvy and we gonna see, child, we gonna see. But anyway, so he like, I thought you said that the defendant testifying, i.e. me, would be like a last resort type thing. She like, yeah, but we feel like this is necessary in this moment, and with the proper training and preparation and whatnot, you should be able to go off without a hitch. And then plus, your innocence is something that is a major fixture here that could really help you. Just get up there, just tell the truth. And so he presents to her something that she should have presented in the first place. And this is another reason why, and I said this before, that even if Jax wins this case, she's going to lose, because she's fucking up. Like, honestly, a lot of the decisions that she's been making, she really just been getting lucky, to be honest. Because like I said, that whole like shifting the blame thing and all of that, like, looking at the details and whatnot, especially his history of rage and violence and things of that nature, let alone towards women. Like, you know what I'm saying? Evidently, she did her thing picking the jury, because, and if we go back to what the jury paper said, and I'm glad I took a picture of that, paid special attention to it. But if you remember what that picture said, the people that she chose for the jury were like narrow-minded, bigoted people that would have favored bias towards infantilized black men. Or infantilized men of color who have a lot of money, that would easily feel like, oh, they're just trying to bring a man of color down. She chose people a lot like herself that would just commit to believing him because he represents what they've been conditioned to believe and fawn over. And as I'm saying, if in the say like what he says he presents to her, what if he did it? What if he not innocent? Because what if he went to the cabin? He having visions and flashbacks and dreams and all of this and that. And her stupid ass shuts him off and shuts him up and it's like, no, you stop talking. You stop talking. I don't care about that. You just need to focus on getting prepared to take the stand and getting prepared to do this and that and let it, that ain't none of our concern. You need to say them dreams and aspirations for the therapist and all that because we don't need to hear it. No, bitch. In actuality, you are supposed to get a clear-cut answer from the beginning about his alibi and about whether or not he did it. Like, yeah, he can say, oh, I'm innocent, and yeah, he kept saying, oh, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, da 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 da. But you as a seasoned lawyer are supposed to do your due diligence to discern and or sift through, especially those blatant inconsistencies that kept coming up about him that you did little to nothing to investigate so that you could be tunnel vision on doing what you want to do, which is like, it's just, you are just so fixated on winning this case. And it's making me go back to what Monica said to her about like, you don't truly care about him either. And I feel like this moment shows straight up that you don't truly care about Ozzy for real. You don't have the capacity to truly care about him for real. You don't even care about yourself for real. So let's start there. Because I don't remember if I said it straight up last episode, but like her daughter said to her on one of the other episodes, like, y'all do everything y'all can to not be appreciative of this family, to not be present in this family, to not do what you need to do for this family type shit. Y'all do everything y'all can to distract yourselves from the kids that you have here and the things that you have going on at home. Y'all do everything y'all can to find an issue here. So like, yeah, last episode when Lewis was telling her, you know, things going on, you know, in your things going on in your family that's conducive to your identity, that's conducive to us running our family better and in a more healthy manner and things of that nature. And she lightly snapped at Lewis like, you know, but all of that's gonna have to wait until after this case. I can't be focused on any of that until after this case. Like the only thing that is important is this case and anything to avoid actually taking care of you. Anything to avoid actually doing what needs to be done for you. Because see, if you take care of yourself better, you will inevitably take care of your kids better. You will inevitably take care of your job better. What you do in one spot, you do everywhere else. So you end up neglecting the fuck out of yourself. And so then in everything you do, you overachieving. It seems you overachieving. And you got major neglecting holes. You got major neglected spots in everything you do. High maintenance, major impact. And what I mean by that is you doing the most and nothing at all. It's giving like the type of person that will spot clean the entire house to try to distract everyone from the fact that it's a big ass hole in the ceiling, to try to distract everyone from the fact that the fucking basement is infested with rats. You doing all this fucking spring cleaning on the surface, working up a black sweat. Okay, the cabinets, the counters, the floors, and everything look like you can just eat off of them. But you got 11,000 rats in your basement. And it's a hole in the ceiling. Wires coming out the damn AC. Where do wires come from in AC? Yeah, no, you gotta watch people like that. You gotta watch people like that who are hyper prioritizing, overachieving in one area of their life so that they can use that as an excuse to be neglectful to other areas. And that is what I recognize Jax is doing throughout this case. She don't want to face the parts of her that may not be so innocent. So she can't listen to what Ozzy is saying here, let alone she lacks the capacity to truly face and deal with her own emotions like talking about too. So she can't sit up here and listen to Ozzy's emotions, especially if they're getting in the way of her getting a win as a notch on her belt, as some superficial thing to make her finally feel accomplished. And that just clicked something in my head too. And that makes sense as to why I was like, especially when she snapped on the white lady, I was like, there is strength in that. Like she's trying to transfer strength, and what she said is true, and it's strengthful and just what it is. But at the same time, there was so much insecurity that I was picking up in there. There's a lot of insecurity even when she is saying the shit with her chest, shutting people down, shutting people up, and telling them, you know, she keep the lights on, and all of this and that. There's an insecurity in it, and it just clicked in my head like as to why. And it's understandable as to why, but at the same time, like, she has to be responsible for her own shit, right? Because it's totally understandable if she has a hard time believing herself how successful that she is. Because her being a black woman, being a dark-skinned black woman, and all of that in the field that she's in, and how much they go out of their way to cut her down, they go out of their way to discredit her and disregard her and disrespect her and her work and things that she does and all of that shit, and she ends up internalizing it. And that's understandable. I'm not blaming her for that. The issue is, and where she is to blame, is not unpacking it conducively to not become what she despises. Amongst is also pinpointing that her sense of confidence is entangled in task completion, but even more so having specific people give her praise. So for instance, She's accomplished all these things, and let's say, for instance, Lewis, which we have seen him be. Lewis is one of her star players, one of her number one fans, all of that shit. And Lewis can big her up, her kids can big her up, her clients can big her up about every single thing that she does and this and that. But it won't be enough unless Big Daddy says it's enough. Like, even though she does all of that, bravado and all this, that, and the third, deep down, she still wants that approval from Big Daddy. Deep down, it's eating her up and controlling the fuck out of her that she has not and cannot get that stamp of approval officially from Big Daddy, even when she gets that stamp of approval as partner. And like I said, it's totally understandable, like, the number this does on her psyche. However, she can't break through it because she won't acknowledge the parts of her that she has claimed for herself to be what she despises. Like, it's certain shit that you cannot justify. No pun intended, but it's there for a reason. It's certain shit that you cannot justify, period. Certain shit that you cannot justify, period. Because if you end up justifying it, that's how you end up selling your soul. Tisk. So, like I said, she shut Ozzy the fuck down on all that he was talking about that she really needed to listen to. You really needed to take that in, because that information not only could help you win the case, in a more like creative and solid manner, because I feel like even the way that she's going about it, it could easily be appealed. Like, even if he was to win, the way that she's going about it, I feel like, well, the prosecution could easily sift back through the papers and, present their case to the judge and be like, look, I feel like we still need to open this trial back up because look at this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if he's not the only person on trial like he was before, this case needs to be opened back up. And he still needs to be, like, retrialed and further reevaluated and all of that shit, because, honey, they are not vetting this young man properly. And I feel like, too, especially when you saying that you care about him beyond being your client, but he was up here trying to have a genuine, vulnerable moment with you. Like, out of all the other moments that he's had throughout this season, those moments of vulnerability wasn't the most genuine. It's like he had real emotions for make-believe circumstances, and or make-believe circumstances within to create those real emotions for the real circumstances that he's in, which is acting. Okay, but it's like, in this moment, he was being genuinely vulnerable. And it's like, especially when you accompany that with all those other moments that he was performing vulnerability, and you took it in, you absorbed it and you internalized it and all of that. But then this moment where he's being genuinely vulnerable, you immediately shut him down. Just like who? His mama. So as Ozzy pardons himself to go get his life in order after Jax just snapped the fuck off on him. And it's also like, you snapped off on him too because you just want to do what you want to do. You didn't want no input for real. You just want to do what you want to do because you're so hyper fixated on getting your credit for this case because of, how jaded she feels off the backs of what happened with the last case and how she played such a huge role in that case, but she didn't get hardly any of the credit. Okay, again, understandable, but honey, you and Bill in the same boat, no? And speaking of which, Bill says to her, like, yo, like, basically, do you hear what he's saying? That man is not ready to take the stand, and I don't think he's ever gonna be ready. Look, I'm just saying you may need to sleep on this. And she gonna cock her damn head to the side talking about, I don't sleep on nothing but my pillow and my head wrap. Well, girl, you do that with your dumb ass. And it's like, it's so bittersweet and annoying because she got some cool ass lines this season for the wrong fucking circumstances. And I know it's probably a lot of people that don't and or can't read between the lines the way that I can and pick up on the other things the way that I can. Because mind you, I'm not only an audience member, I'm also a spiritual worker, and I'm also an actress. A trained actress. I went to school for acting to learn the fundamentals and all the things. I've also educated myself on the spirituality of the parallels with acting, as well as several other art forms and things of that nature. So I just say like to say I'm not just making up shit. And also, like, I know it's a lot of women that just get like very lost in the sauce, if you will, by some of the cold ass lines she's saying. She got on a badass outfit, she rolling her neck, she snapping her fingers, she doing a lot of the things that the white men get away with, and she's doing it, seemingly fucklessly and all of that good shit. And honestly, I love that for her, but I can see that the foundation is shaky. Not only is the foundation shaky, but also the core is shaky. So it's a lot of things being presented in these episodes that I can very much so tell that the writers are they're doing like what I just described, like my feeling is how the season is going in, where they're putting something in front of you very direct and clear, but it is not what you think it is. It is so much more to what meets the eye. And it's like it's here to distract you. It's being so direct with you to distract you from all of the other shit. Much like the analogy that I was just saying about like the type of person who will OCD spot clean the kitchen, the counters, the cabinets, and all of that. Make up the bed, spot clean all of the mirrors, all of the windows, but it's rats in the basement and it's a hole in the ceiling. So they're gonna make sure all of this other shit is shining so that you're blinded from the other majorly impacted in fucked up ways things. All of the other things that are majorly impacted in fucked up ways. Hi. So, as we proceed to give you gamer mother what you need. And what you need is Lewis at work. Lewis at work. And let me tell you about Lewis, honey. Lewis, you know I go hard in the paint for you, baby. But right here, right now, in this episode, in this moment, my dude, my guy, my John, if you will, because you from Philly. You standing up there giving them bitches a reason to be laughing at us. You giving all them bitches a reason to be laughing at us. Lewis. He up here dealing with Demonic. Y'all know it's not Demonic, but the boy looked like Demonic. The boy that played his name on here, Sam. The boy that's his employee. He done hired on. Up here turning him every which way but loose with the lies, honey. The lies. So now he come up in here talking about, oh, I ain't do all of them things that you said for me to do, and I ain't do it how you wanted me to do because, you know, yesterday I found out that my girlfriend is pregnant and tomorrow she having a baby and I gotta be there. Like, cool story, bro. But Lewis, at this point, that's his own damn fault. Just like it's your own damn fault. Fool you once. Boom, I can't get fooled again. Like, how many times can you take him back? How many times? Hey, you betrayed his life. Oh. How many times, Lewis? How many times, Lewis? He got to come in here with some side story, some excuse, some, oh, I was gonna iguana, Gila monster, bearded dragon. God damn it. How many times? How many times? If he just now found out that his girl is pregnant, he irresponsible. If he found out that she was pregnant a long time ago, months ago, and this and that, and he just now saying something to you about it, he just now getting a sense of urgency about it, he just now saying something about a due date, a baby being had, and all of this and that, he's irresponsible. Even if the baby is real and he's just now coming up, he's irresponsible. Because that's something we think about that boy that was online. He was on TikTok, Facebook, or whatever it was that he was on, but he was talking about the girl lied about the pregnancy, the whole pregnancy. I ain't showed him now piece of sonogram or none of that. And he ain't been to no doctor's appointments or none of that. He tried one time to take her to a doctor's appointment and she was outside acting a fool and this and that. And I'm like, you know, I believe that she is off her goddamn rocker and she did that. But also, as I'm listening to him and he talking about the things and you ain't been nowhere with her, you ain't did no double checking. You up here acting like Jax. Okay? And Lewis, okay? Y'all want to talk about Lewis. You see what I'm saying? You got to watch them people that overachieve in certain areas for the sake of cloaking how they're majorly fucking up in others. Because Jackson Lewis do the same shit. They just do it in different ways with different people in different settings. And Lewis is not performative. Oop. So yeah. But yeah, that boy up there, and I'm like, he was talking about he was in and out of jail and whatnot throughout the pregnancy. And I'm like, sir, well, honey, you don't really have a leg to stand on. You irresponsible. Like, had you not been so irresponsible and negligent, then maybe you would have had more answers to begin with. Like, huh? Like, sometimes you just don't know until you know. And often, people be peopling in the ways that they be overachieving in one area for the sake of cloaking how they're fucking up in other areas. And there are very much so people who will go out of their way to attach themselves to people who they know are fucked up in the same ways that they are, but they know that they're better at performing. They know that they're better at cloaking their flaws and distracting people from their flaws. So they use that other person that they keep around, be it their mate, their friend, whoever it is, to be like the scapegoat to all their bullshit. So Jax does that to Lewis, and also Lewis could do that to this guy, but because he's not, this guy is trying to do it to Lewis. And let me also tell you about motherfuckers like this guy right here. They have a poor mentality of thinking that every single person who has a position of power or a little bit of money is going to automatically have the character traits to be greedy and fuck them over and just drain them for creativity and then throw them away. So they, on one hand, will try to get you before you get them, but then there's also another hand where if you're in a position of power and or you got a little bit of money type shit and you're not greedy, you're not controlling, you're not domineering, you don't go out of your way to just bully people and siphon from them and toss them away, then people like Sam will think that you're stupid and that you're just weak and that you just shouldn't be in your position. Like, because as a person of power, you should be being greedy. You should be, doing to everybody what the white man has done to us. So if you're not, you just dumb. So yeah, and this can also happen in friendships too, not just in like workspaces and shit like that. This happens socially, where you, even if you don't have money or a specific type of job, career, or whatever, if you just radiate an essence of power, but you're not domineering and dictatorish and bullified about it, there are some people that will feel like, oh, you just dumb. Oh, you just dumb. You just don't know what you got. But in actuality, true power does not domineer. It's dominant, but it does not domineer. And again, that's also why I said there's an essence of insecurity as fuck that radiates off Jax throughout a lot of this season, and especially when she is calling herself putting her dick on the table. But specifically to this scene, child, your boy Sam is running fast one on Lewis again, and he lets his compassion and real father, real man isms let this boy gyp him once again. When in actuality, even if he was telling him the truth, he needed to also take that as another red flag of that boy being irresponsible as fuck and him needing to get the fuck on down. Because I guarantee you, if Lewis had walked in there, especially like the way that they kept his situation with Tony under wraps, if Lewis, all the time he been working there, everything that he been putting into the company and this and that, if he was fucking up and then he suddenly come in there talking about, oh, my side chick finna have a baby, they would definitely start facilitating the process to get Lewis' ass up out of there. Because they probably can't just fire him straight up, considering his position, how long he been there, whatever their protocols and shit is. But if Lewis had done that shit, they would have definitely been facilitating the reason to get him up out of there, because they'd have been like, you just irresponsible. Like, you need to go get that together. For real. Because if you fucking like this at work, you fucking up like this at work, you literally don't need a job. You need rehab or something. You need to go back to school or something. You need to go find yourself. Like, yeah, don't be fooled. As much as men do be out here cheating and sneaking and deaking and getting away with a lot of shit, when it comes to them having like certain types of jobs, it ain't even got to be real corporate. Just anything that requires them to be like punctual, stable, represent or display like loyalty, consistency, security, responsible, things of that nature. Like, even if you're just a businessman, an entrepreneur, a lot of other entrepreneurs won't want to work with you if you have a bunch of relationship drama going on all the time. You always cheating on your wife. You always having babies left and right type shit. Like, a lot of the media and men and all of that will let you believe, like really want you to believe that they can just be out here, doing whatever, and that shit don't hurt their money, it don't hurt their jobs and careers and that shit, but it does. And often it's another woman that is acting as a safety net for them. It's not necessarily that they're not being hit up or affected. It's just often another woman being a safety net for them. And we'll revisit that momentarily. But before, we back with Ozzy and, I can't think of the girl's name, Jax. We back with Ozzy, Jax, and Bill, and they are taking him through the preparation reps of him speaking his speech on the stand. So he's having a hard time. He is under pressure, distraught, and disheveled, honey. Okay, he needs a break. Bill, like, ain't no breaks on the stand, child. Jack say, give us a minute. All right? So she started trying to counsel him to, it's weird because I feel like she's counseling him to convince himself. It's like a weird form of gaslighting. Because he feels guilty about something. And I feel like whatever guilt he feels, whether it's that he did it to Wendy, or he set it up, or he was a part of it, or whatever, or even if it was something else that he feels guilty for, and it's like channeling, like it could be something else that he did to Wendy, right? Let's say he hit Wendy right before she left, and then wherever she went elsewhere, it got hit there too, and then they hit her, or they shot her, or whatever. He didn't, like, he may not mentally have like tried to kill her, but what he did do was a catalyst to her death, to what ended up leading to her death type shit. So he could even be feeling guilt for that. And it's like, instead of her trying to unpack this guilt to potentially release it, or even, like, I don't understand why she does not have, especially the way that this boy is, it has been, I don't understand why she doesn't have her friend to some level on call, to like be around more often in real time to interact with him from a psychological standpoint amongst socializing with him, because I feel like the one-on-one sessions for his type of person is not good. Like, he's the type that has to go back and forth in between like group therapy, social therapy, to talk therapy, one-on-one hypnosis. Why didn't she even put this boy under hypnosis? I cannot understand why she didn't arrange for him to be put under even hypnosis. Because no, it's not their job to, try to speak to the jurors or the judge what happened that night. But you do need to gather certain clarifications and securities of truth of some sort for yourself, so that you can have a greater foundation for what you're making your statements based on. That's why a lot of people who actually are liars, sociopaths, and narcissists and shit, the ones who are honest with themselves, they may lie, cheat, and finagle with everybody and everything else, but when it comes to them talking to themselves and the relationship that they have with themselves, they're real with themselves about the type of person that they are and the things that they do. Those people get away with shit way longer. Because even if they do feel guilty about something that they've done, they have the urgency and capacity to unpack it and evaluate it with themselves, at least for the sake of releasing it, so that when they do lie, it comes out as quote unquote the truth. For instance, this is a way that certain people avoid failing lie detector tests, even though they're liars and they may have lied throughout the entire test. But because they were able to be real with themselves at some point and make peace with that reality, it is no longer sending off chaotic chemical reactions when they speak on it, even if they're lying about it. That's why I'm like, and I can tell that Jax is extremely tunnel vision on this, because you're not even trying to get him to a sense of peaceful reality in himself. You just want to do whatever it is that you want to do. You just want to do what you want to do. You just want it to go how you want it to go. You just want it to play out exactly how you want it to play out. And that's no different than his mama. That's literally no different than his biological mother, and not much different from Monica. Like, no, you're not a pedophile. No, you're not pigeonholing your son to some career that, he deep down doesn't want to do. But you are implementing those same frequencies real strong, like in different ways. But again, she don't really have the capacity to peep that, like talking about, because it's a sense of reality in herself that she has not faced, let alone made peace with. So, tisk. And when she excuses Bill and they're having a conversation, like I said, she's trying to convince him to focus on his innocence, omit all of those feelings of guilt and da-da-da-da. Think about that too, is that is unrealistic for a true performing artist, or a true artist in general. Because granted, Ozzy may not have wanted to be a child actor. Like, with his talent and whatnot, I feel like he could have eventually, went about it himself in some way. Like, he may not have wanted to be that famous. Maybe he wanted to just do independent films, things of that nature. But either way, him being a true artist at any rate, it is fucking unrealistic to tell him to ignore any fucking feelings that he has. Not only is it unrealistic, but it is dangerous. Like, it's dangerous in general, even for regular people, but especially when you are dealing with artists and or spiritual workers. Artists are spiritual workers in general, inevitably, whether they are mindful or mindless about it or not. But I say this because the senses are heightened in these types of beings. The senses are heightened. So it is even more difficult to conform to any type of circumstance that requires you to suppress emotion, omit emotion, forget emotion. Artists, especially actors, don't do that. They don't suppress emotion, they redirect it. And that's how shit gets extremely dangerous. And so in his expression to her, he's like, but what if? Like, he, further emphasizing, but what if? What if under all of these things that we're using to emphasize my innocence are exactly the things that would make me capable of this underneath the surface? And this, like I said, this is the realest that he has ever been, because in actuality, and that's why I said, like, the jurors that they picked are really not smarter than a fifth grader. And she's got a lot of, like, as she's poking holes in the prosecution's case, she got a lot of holes in her own case. And that's why I said, like, even if she was to win this, I feel like it would be very easy for it to be appealed and reopened, brought back, all of that shit. Because it's a whole lot of holes. It's a whole lot of holes. Because, like he just said, and like I've been saying, all of those things that y'all are using to say, oh, he could have never, are also reasons why he very much so could have. So evidently she's now sent him to her friend Gosh, I could. Oh, wow, I wish I could remember her fucking name. I always forget her fucking name. But it's because we don't see her enough, to be honest. Like, it's because we really don't. We don't have a lot of character development on her. And like, I remember her face. I remember like all of the characteristics of her, except for her name. And like, that's how I am with names. I remember names once you have more of a personal identity to me. And so it's like, out of all of Jack's friends, all of them have been personalized except this one. Like, yeah, she pregnant and all of this shit, but we usually only see her with Jax, or we're only seeing her as a lawyer, or we're only seeing her as this woman in a lesbian marriage that's trying to have a baby. We don't ever see just her, like, in her own space doing shit, or her and her wife in their own space just doing shit, out to dinner, out for coffee, talking, like shit like that. Usually I can remember the names better. Like, that's usually when I pick up on the names better, when I've been able to embrace them personably. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Mercedes, Monica, okay, that correlation there. You know, the other characters and this and that. And I recognize this lady, but it seemed like I recognize her from other pieces. But it seemed like she's always playing. I don't know if y'all know some more stuff that she's in, where her character is more personalized and not so objectified, if you will, as it concerns the main character. Because I don't know what that is about me. Like, if you keep showing up, or if characters keep showing up as their job title or the friend title, or like, you know, or this thing that they're trying to do, it's hard for me to latch on to your name. That indicates who you are, not what you are, but who you are. You feel me? Because I'm the same way in real life type shit. Like, if I just keep seeing you in your job title, or I just keep seeing you like just attaching your identity to shit that you do, oftentimes it'll take a good minute for me to remember your name, because you're rarely showing up as just who you are. And I'm specifying all that to say, because if you stick around here in these neck of the woods, these queenly quarters, honey, you may end up noticing that consistency. And I'm saying that to say I genuinely don't mean to be disrespectful or disregarding, because I really like this character, actually. I like this character. I also think the actress is beautiful and all of that. I want to know more about this character. But so I can't fucking remember her name. So I really hope in season 4 that they will personalize this character more, and we get to see her do more than be a wife trying to have a baby, be a psychiatrist, be Jack's friend. I want to see this lady be more personalized. I want to see her and her wife more. I want to see them in doing their things. I want to, you know, just being outside of their titles and what they do. I want to see more of that. So yeah, she having a sesh with Ozzy. And real quick, I'm finna just go out of my way real quick to look up her name, because I really refuse at this point to sit up here and keep calling her the lesbian friend, Jack's psychiatrist friend, a pregnant friend, a friend trying to have a baby. What is your name, honey? What is your name? Autumn. Her name is Autumn. Okay? Jack's psychiatrist friend name is Autumn. Gosh. And so y'all already know the way that I'm finna make myself remember that is Mercedes is on this season, and Mercedes is from P Valley, and P Valley had Autumn Night. So that's how I'm finna remember, okay? Autumn, all right? Jax's friend Autumn, who is the psychiatrist, lesbian lady that's pregnant, all that good shit. She's counseling Ozzy. So yeah, honey. So I'm going to like just speak on my talking points from this conversation, because it honestly irritated me. Y'all tell me something. I can believe it, but you tell me, if you ever been pregnant, let alone like full-term pregnancy type shit, does it put a damper on your discernment? Like, did you, for instance, if you were before you got pregnant and all that shit, you were very like keen, like you could call a thing a thing. You might be early, but you ain't wrong. Like, very discerning, very intuitive, and this and that. And then once you got pregnant throughout your pregnancy, it's like you had a hard time detecting. Like, your radar wasn't radaring. Is that a thing for you? Because what I pick up on this session is that, so like the first session that she had with Ozzy, it's like her antennas were way up. Like, her feminine and masculine sense of discernment was very much so balanced. It was on point. She was able to, like, you know, kind of decode through the things and tell him what he needed to hear, not get so, you know, lost in the sauce of the feelings and the compassion and all of that good shit. But in this scene, there's a switch, and it could be from her spending so much time with him over the course of the trial and whatnot. And I do wonder if they're trying to communicate too that her hormones from her pregnancy and whatnot could also be creating rose-colored glasses for her in a way. Because in a way, it could be not necessarily the hormones, but more so her trying to hyper prioritize staying in a specific type of energetic set, emotional state, things of that nature, mentality. And so then she could be blinding herself to certain things with the intention of trying to maintain peace, internal peace for her baby, and speak very mindfully concerning the baby, what it may hear and take in and all of that, and even blinded by some of her own fears of how her baby might turn out, right? And a part of the reason why I say this is because Ozzy is further elaborating upon why he feels the guilt that he feels and that he could have been capable of doing it and things of that nature. So this is where I will acknowledge the flashbacks that were basically communicating and showing us Ozzy had this dog, and him and his mama took the dog to the doctor. The doctor told them that the dog ingested too much fucking chocolate, but he's gonna be okay. But at the same time, him having that much goddamn chocolate, somebody had to done gave it to him. So the doctor was alluding that Ozzy may have been the one to give it to him. Of course, there was like Ozzy's dog, of course, the family dog, but it's specifically Ozzy's dog. So of course, all eyes is on him. Ozzy like he didn't do it, but even as he's communicating the story and whatnot, he like his mama just even thinking, his mama even having a belief that he would do it is enough. And in this, Autumn is, and y'all know something too, I be want to call her Dawn. So some part of my mind, some part of me knew some semblance of what her name was. Not Autumn Night, but Autumn Dawn. The dawn of autumn, but nah. So Autumn responds to him in a way of like, you can't control what other people think and believe about you. And also he was talking about basically him being stressed. Because in the flashbacks, we also see him being very worn down by the conditions of his career, the show, everything that's going on. He's wanting to take a break. He's wanting to rest. He's wanting to take time off and just be a regular kid, regular teenager, all of those things. Also, in the meantime, between time, we get some glimpses of how Monica would tease and abuse and groom him, like not the straight up, but like how she would provoke him in some certain ways, play on his top, cause smoke and mirrors confusion with him concerning his identity, sexual identity, things of that nature, and all of that. And like enticing him, and then if he doesn't respond the way that she wants him to, she say, oh, he must be gay, or something wrong with you, shit like that, predator shit. And trying to, I feel like in this method, and this is a part of too, what's wrong with his psyche and why this frequency of guilt is also instilled in his psyche. I think it also comes from the sexual abuse, because I noticed that the sexual abusers, they create circumstance to make it seem like the victim did it to themselves or made them do it to them. And so it's like she wanted Ozzy, when she was enticing him and then like, oh, you must be gay, it's like she wanted him to then respond by aggressively taking her. Even though he's a child. And you up here enticing him and playing on his top, you scorpion in him, get over here, you doing that. Girl. You know what I'm saying? But you gone, if he was to do that, like if he was to just snatch her up and take her down and all of that shit, that's exactly what she wanted. But if he would have said something, or somebody would have said something, she would have been like, oh, he assaulted me, and da 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 da. Similar to how she got on stage, on the stage, and was talking about, well, he came on to me. Girl, shut up. And so also in these moments, we see all of these different things creating and building a rage in him, and him at one point, specifically a point where Monica has taunted him and exited the situation. He then turns his attention to one of the one of the film stage managers. I'm saying stage manager because I forget what the film term for it is, but I guess like one of the stage managers came into his Mercury, please turn my tongue loose, honey. Came into his trailer. I was gonna say his cabinet. Golly, came into his trailer, honey. He had knocked on the door, but then he knocked on the door. And he answered. Ozzy tweaked out, talking about, you don't fucking knock. You don't fucking knock. He like, I did knock. Say you knocked again. Say another motherfucking word, and this shit is over. And I ain't playing, nigga. And he throws some thick ass, hard ass, solid ass award or something at him and whatnot, snatches him up, about to do him in, shouted, and his mama comes in and stops the madness. But his mama don't like reprimand him, hold him accountable, or nothing like that. She just walks out. That type shit lets the person know that they can just keep doing shit as long as don't nobody do nothing to say nothing about it for real. Tisk. So, and in the midst of them communicating about this, and Ozzy expresses to Autumn how, the plethora of things that he thought about doing to get off the show, and how because he was also talking about the differentiation between before he was a child actor and after, and the difference in his mama. Like before, he felt like his mama saw him as a person, as her son, and even saw herself as his mom and functioned in such a way. But since he started acting, since he got on the sitcom and all of that, it's like she just became a burden golden goose to her type shit. Like a burden, but like it's like he gotta pay for burdening her. And that also correlates with what she said to him on the last episode, talking about, I did everything I could for you, and this and that, and da da da, and all I am now is the mother to an abused child that's on trial for murder and all this other shit. And it's like, bitch, that's your fault. Now what? Because maybe that shit could have been avoided if you had listened to him the first time he said that he needed a break. Ooh, the fuck? Anyway, and so he was like, the number of things that he thought about doing to get off the show. And Autumn says to him, our thoughts are different from our actions. And in the midst of this, she is saying, normal people have, do bad things and all of this and that and the third. My soul won't allow me to put it in her exact words. But she was basically doing this thing that quite a bit of people do, when for one, they're wrapping their identity up in too much shit, and I feel like they're poorly conditioned. So first of all, and I see this a lot specifically when it comes to sexual assault cases and or abuse cases, and you will have people that's like, well, nobody's perfect, we all make mistakes. Yes, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has the devil in them and everybody has God in them. Yes. And then yes, everyone also has free will, and there are a multitude of people who normally, which means on a normal basis, on a regular basis, consistently, as their being, they make good choices for the greater good. They make choices that are conducive to their own well-being as well as the well-being of humanity. Just like there are others who choose to lead and be led by their darkness. So no, everyone, not normal people do all of these same things. No. Everybody is not out here killing and raping people. No. And I need for people also to understand how fucking foolish and crazy they sound when they say that. Because it is stupid. Like, it's stupid. I just gotta say that straight up. It's foolish as fuck. And you don't realize what you're saying to yourself and about yourself when you wrap your identity up in everything like that. That's why you gotta be careful about people who may not do certain shit, but they don't take a stance on certain shit. They want to say, oh, we all make mistakes. Yeah, everyone makes mistakes, but they don't all go out of their way to take power from other people, to take life from other people. No, everybody is not doing that. Everybody does not have those aspirations nor thoughts. They might think about the fact that it happens, but they're not thinking about doing it. And yeah, some people think about doing shit and evaluate it and then come to the conclusion like, oh, that's not me. Nah, hell no, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, but y'all are not even having that conversation with him for real. You're just telling him what you feel like ought to be the truth for the moment, for what you want him to take in. So that you can keep him what you feel like is stabilized, so that he don't fucking tweak out on you. Because what I also feel like has happened is that they know he has the capability of tweaking the fuck out and raging and screaming and all of that shit, and they just get scared and pacify him and gaslight him in different ways. But they think that because they're not pacifying him towards slaving on a film set, or they're not gaslighting him towards going and fucking Monaco one more time, that makes them so much better. But it's not. Because what I also pick up with him and him processing through this episode, and or trying to process through this episode, is people hearing what he says, like in his most vulnerable moments. And this is why he acts his way through life, because in his most vulnerable moments, when he is telling you, and this is something that women a lot of the time experience, so it's really interesting to see women handle him in this way. But the moment he has a genuine moment of vulnerability, they start telling him, no, that's not what you think and feel. This other thing is what you think and feel. Or you don't need to think and feel that. This other thing is what you need to think and feel. When the reality is, what he thinks and feels is his reality. And y'all just keep shooting it down because it makes your, whatever you think ought to be the reality, discomforted. Tisk. All you doing is feeding him more lines. No, it's not on the film set, but you're still just feeding him lines. You're feeding him lines and character traits that are not his own. And you want him to get on stage and perform as if that's not like the issue that he's having here in more ways than one. Also, in the midst of this conversation, it gets brought up that he has a conduct disorder diagnosis. And if I had to explain it in simple terms, just in simple terms, honey, because I got to go ahead and get through this episode. But it gives kind of like situational depression in a way. So what I learned and understand about situational depression is that, you know, it's kind of in a way self-explanatory, because I don't want to act like every person's situation is cookie cutter or whatever. But people who have situational depression, they can be really, 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 really good until specific types of situations happen, and then it can drastically depress them and keep them locked down, severe depressive hermit mode. They have a hard time shaking back. The conduct disorder diagnosis gives that specific situations can happen, and then instead of just shutting down, they may turn the fuck up as a result of not being able to properly regulate and process what's happened. So it's like extreme highs and lows of the other one, extreme different sides of the same coin type shit is how it comes up. I hope I explained that pretty properly well enough for y'all to understand. But so yeah, child, and apparently this is a diagnosis that he was not let known that he has. And so now Autumn is on the stand, and she basically has to give her testimonial on a lot of the things that she has taken in about him and from him throughout their session. She talks about he definitely has arrested development, where like his psychological maturity is halted. That makes sense to the amount of trauma that he's experienced through fame and sexual abuse, things of that nature. Could be any other disturbances that could have happened throughout his young life that locked him in psychologically at that same age. Okay, and so she's like, with that, there can be a pattern of behavior that defies societal norms and rules and things of that nature. Talks about him calculating consequences logically. So it's like cause and effect, which goes back to what I said. If he gets caught doing something wrong, like snatching up the stage manager for no good reason, and then people interfere just enough to break it up, but no one says to him, Ozzy, that was wrong. Why did you do that? Okay, next time when you feel this way, we can handle it these plethora of ways. And if not, these other things could possibly happen if you don't get your shit together. Failure to do so, let his mentality know that it doesn't matter what he does. As long as he performs well, it doesn't matter what he does. As long as he makes the money, it doesn't matter what he does. And another thing that I forgot to like thoroughly elaborate on was, she said to him, you can't control what other people think, feel, and believe, and all of that. Now, the key word there is control, because no, you can't control what other people think, feel, and believe per se, but you can influence it. You can highly influence it, and extreme forms of influence is control. So here's the thing. That makes that statement both a lie and the truth. And that's another moment where I was like, she's off her game. Because as a seasoned psychologist, ain't no fucking way she would have just said that statement and then left it at that. Especially being the fact when she is talking to an actor, a child star actor, who has a fucked up, damaged, traumatized sense of reality. His career deals in, quote unquote, controlling how people feel and having to micromanage to some degree how he feels. Not only that, but also, and this is me also speaking from experience as an actor, when you do scenes with people, the other actors that you act with, yeah, you have lines, but the way that you deliver those lines make a difference. And the way that you deliver your line from your character can make a difference in the way that your co-star responds with their line. So for instance, my character could say, I'm going to the store. Their character's response could be, oh, what you gonna buy? Now, they could already have it in their mind what their intent is when they say, what you gonna buy? They could already have it planned in their mind, the intent that will influence how the line comes out. But if I make a choice in my intent that conflicts with their original idea, it will shift. They will have to like emote on their feet how they're going to say their line in response now, right? Especially like if it's in play form or if it's multiple takes. So for instance, I could say, I'm finna go to the store. Okay, I could say, I'm finna go to the store, I'm finna go to the store, I'm finna go to the store. I could say it like that for 5 takes. But if I get on a 6th take and say, I'm finna go to the store, that will then trigger my co-star to have to emote on their feet now, like, whoa, okay, she gonna say this shit different now. So I can't say my line the same way, which means now my feelings have also shifted, and I have to go with that shift in order to, even though I'm saying the same line we've been saying over and over again, my emotions, and I have to mentally allow my emotions to flow with that shift to respond accordingly with the line that I'm saying. Okay? I know that was a bit much, but I feel like I explained it properly. Now, saying all of that to say, given that even that is a part of the nature of acting and what he does and has been doing since a child, amongst how that shit has bled over into several other realities of his life, you are out your goddamn mind sitting up here saying to him just simply and then leaving it at that, that you can't control how other people think and feel and believe. Because in certain cases and in his reality, that is a lie. That's a lie. And even in this moment, you're being a hypocrite. You're lying and being an example of the lie all at the same time, because you are sitting up here excessively influencing what and how he thinks and feels. And that is becoming controlling to his thoughts and emotions. And it's for the sake of the means to an end to get him on stand so that he can perform the way that y'all want him to perform so that y'all can win the case. And boom, TikTok.